Hello everyone, welcome back to our playthrough of Our Life, Beginnings and Always. Last we left off, we went on a road trip, a double family road trip, and then we just spent a very hot summer day thinking about life. So let's see which moment we're gonna play through next with our random number generator. We're gonna have a nice dinner. Sunlight shone through the windows as he sat in your living room, your home phone pressed to your ear. Cove was on the other end. It had been shaping up to be an ordinary day like any other, until Cove had called unexpectedly. He sounded unusually nervous greeting you. You listened silently as he kept talking, his words stilted. So, I was just, wondering, do you want to come over to my house for dinner tonight? The question came out strangely, almost like he'd rehearsed it a few times beforehand. Your eyes widened a little, and expected this to be the reason behind the call. He kept listening. Cole continued. His next words sounded rehearsed too, and tinged with nervousness. My mom and dad, they really want you to be there. If your parents don't have a problem with it, he asked me to ask you. He took a moment to think. Dinner at home would be quiet and uneventful today. If you really wanted to, you could go to Cole's instead. Cole spoke up again, breaking through your thought train. His voice was softer than before. Also, I want you to be there too. Can you come over, I mean? Why am I the only one invited? Or did you mean the whole family? The decision wouldn't be up to you if you wanted your entire family to attend. You'd have to ask your moms if they could make time in that case. Mom and Dad only mentioned you. The whole dinner thing's their idea. You pursed your lips, contemplating your answer. What are you gonna do, Jamie? Alright, I'll go. Thanks, Jamie. I'll let him know when I can. You sounded noticeably relieved by your response. Was he coming over for her dinner today that serious? He spoke to you for a little while longer, to explain what time to come over and other details, then hung up. And that was that, for now anyway. Soon enough, the sun dipped out of the sky and evening came. It was time for you to head to Cove's house. After letting Elizabeth know you were leaving, she didn't look away from the TV, just grunted. You made the small journey across the street. You knocked a couple of times on the heavy door to their condo. As you waited for an answer, you found yourself contemplating being a guest while both of Cove's parents were there. The idea made you curious. You wonder why they decided to invite you out of the blue. Maybe you'd find out later tonight. You didn't get too much time with your thoughts, though. The door opened soon enough. Cove's mom, Kyra, stood in the frame, smiling warmly at you.
Come on.
Hey, Jamie. Welcome. Please, come on in. She opened the door wider and moved to make room. You stepped inside, allowing her to shut it behind you. Thanks so much for coming over. I didn't know it was kind of last second. It's alright. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course.
Just make yourself at home. It's not my home, but I've been given permission to say that. Hey, Jamie. Welcome to our humble abode. You jerked your head towards the sound of Mr. Holden's voice. He waited you briefly from the kitchen, with his back turned and a large spoon in his hand. Hope you're hungry, because I'm cooking up a lot of tasty stuff. True to his word, you heard something sizzling on the stove. You closed your eyes and inhaled. It smelled spicy and savory. You're Mr. Holden busy, and Cove nowhere to be seen. It's just you and Kyra. She gave you a wry smile. He sure is. Well, I've been barred from cooking the entire time I'm staying here. Can you believe that? She nudged you with an elbow. Mr. Holden scoffed good-naturedly, then spoke from over his shoulder. You're on vacation, Kyra. You need to accept that already. She looked back, amused with an obvious on her face and in her tone. People still cook when they're on vacation. Everyone's gotta eat. Just like I'm some celebrity who can go out for every meal or hire a private chef.
Sorry.
Well, in this house, you're a VIP. Kyra smiled and shook her head quietly. Then she turned to face you once more.
Well.
Sorry about that, Jamie. Here I was trying to strike up a conversation with you, and Cliff just had to butt in. I don't butt in. She eyed him, chuckling in disbelief. He wasn't exactly disproving your point with that. Kyra leaned over to whisper to you. It's okay, he likes to be included. But since Clifford insisted on cooking all by himself, he'll have to wait. Two of us can chat. Her next question continued to be said in a hushed tone just to be safe.
So?
How are you doing? You didn't reply to her question. Her looked sympathetic when you didn't give any reaction. She opened her mouth to say something more, but some lightly pounding footsteps caught your attention. You could see Cove emerge from a hall a few moments later. He might have heard all the commotion and left his room to see what was going on. He quickly took stock of the situation. His cheeks tinted pink at the sight of you standing in his living room, and his hand came up to rub his arm almost bashfully. Jamie, you made it. Thanks for coming. Phil's voice was unnaturally loud, as if he thought you wouldn't be able to hear him from where you were, only a few feet away. Hello, Cove. You gave a shy wave, then felt a little stupid for it. You put your arm back down. It's when you glanced away from Cove that you spotted his parents watching the two of you interact. Cove noticed their stares too, meeting them with narrowed eyes.
So...
Are we having dinner now? Not yet, bud. I'm still cooking. Alright, I'm going back to my room. As he turned to leave, he bent his head to the side to face you. You coming? The question was quiet, but you heard it clearly. He smiled, pleased that he asked, and nodded in the affirmative. Cove turned fully and made his way down the hall. Have fun, you two! We'll call you when the food's ready to go. With that, you followed after Cove. The two of you made your way down the hall. You had visited Cove's room before, but only rarely. Cove got to the door first, opening it and stepping inside. You joined them. There was a mat on the floor in front of your door. As you stepped over the threshold into his room, you felt the crunch of sand beneath your feet. The sensation was nothing new to you, of course. Cove constantly came back to his room covered in sand, not bothering to clean himself off at the front door, and got it all over his personal space. That's just how he was, a little bit of a mess. You haven't heard Mr. Holden ever scold him for it. Not like your mom would have you done it. You can sit wherever you want. Cove himself took a seat at the edge of his large bed, looking like a picture of comfort, and left you to the side. You sat down on the chair. There's a desk chair in the room for a reason, after all. You walked over and rolled it out, taking a seat on it. It was stiff against your butt and creaked each time you shifted. You definitely use his bed space more often than this. Oh, too late to complain now. You just have to deal with it. Cove frowned. He was actually disappointed you picked the chair. He might have hoped you'd be closer. You smiled comfortingly at him. He raised his eyebrows. You both kept noticing the other's every move. You're adorable.
What?
But he hadn't expected the compliment. Somehow his flesh grew worse, spreading all the way down his neck. He fumbled for words. I'm not... That's... He gripped the blanket underneath him and searched for something more to say. Did you see my fish? I got some. In a tank, right there. Cove threw both his hands in front of him to direct your eyes toward his pets. He was trying pretty poorly to change the topic, that much was clear. You decided to show him mercy and allowed it. You started to watch the bright fish swim. There were a bunch of them, flowing to and fro in the open space. They stood out starkly against the green aquarium plants. How long have you had those fish?
I guess.
My dad bought them for me not very long after I moved here. I guess it's been years now. Wow, it's a long time. He peered carefully into the tank. The fish looked to be doing well. You must take good care of them. Most of them were small, but there's one especially big one. What are their names? I don't name them. Well, not really. He lifted an eyebrow at that. He continued the explanation sheepishly.
I mean...
Mostly, I just call them things based on what they look like. For a small one, tangerine for a really orange one, that sort of thing. I've had a lot of fish, I'm not that good at coming up with names. He found that surprising. After all these years, he still had trouble naming his fish. That sounded easy to you. You should prepare some ahead of time if he's planning on getting more. Well, a couple of them have other types of names. He pointed to a small orangish red fish. It was minding its own business away from the others. My dad named her Greencatcher, and the other one's Mark. Mom came up with that one. Phil smiled to himself, his eyes reflecting the glow from the tank. You let other people name your fish?
It's nice.
Yeah, it's nice. He then turned to you, tilting his head to the side. There was a considering look on his face. Do you want to name one? Yeah, I do. His smile grew a little at your enthusiasm. Cool. There's a few who don't have names right now, the newer ones. You can pick which one you want to name. He pointed each of the recent acquisitions out to you. The first was the smallest fish in the tank. It was completely orange and zipped all over the place, running laps around the others. The second was slightly bigger and red. His tail was dotted with black spots, which almost resembled freckles. The last fish was the biggest one. Its multicolored scales rippled under the bright light of the tank as it slowly made its way across the vast expanse. You went with... smallest fish. Cove only nodded at your answer, waiting on you to decide on a suitable name. You watched the fish you chose closely. As he did, a name eventually came to you. Jamie. Cove laughed unreservedly at your choice. It was affectionate rather than insulting. What? You can't name it after yourself. Why not? Because I'm not gonna call my fish that. We still said I could pick it. Cove shook his head with a bent smile. I'll call him Junior then. You can still call him Jamie. He seemed like a good enough compromise, so you agreed. Cove nodded, satisfied. With Jamie Jr. Alright, it's Jamie. With that, he essentially moved from you to the tank. He peered fondly at it and its inhabitants. He smiled proudly at Jamie as it swam through the tendrils of the plants, disappearing then reappearing soon after. No, I'm not allowed to have pets in my house, not even fish. The corners of Cove's lips turned down at that. That doesn't sound fair. It sounds like fish would make a mess of your house or anything. You just gotta take care of their tank and feed them and they'll be okay. I get it. You don't want to worry about more lives than two they're raising. That's what they say about it. I never thought about it like that before. Your current conversation brought to mind a memory from years ago. It started coming out with no warning, earning a brief confused look from Cove. One time, Lizzie, or Elizabeth, came back from playing at the beach and hid in her room. She came down for food, but then she ran back upstairs after. It was hard to understand. My mom's left her alone at first. But that night, Mom went to her room to say goodnight and she screamed. Mom and I went over to see what was wrong. Found Lizzie with a big lizard in her arms. Cove's eyebrows rose at that and he leaned forward with interest.
Really?
A lizard? Where'd that come from? Elizabeth says she saw it half buried in the sand and didn't know what it was. She picked it up to find out, then she brought it home. She hid the lizard in her room for a whole day because she wanted to keep it. Mom and Ma were upset with her. They worried about putting it out during night, but she was going to have it to let it go in the morning. Lizzie was really sad. She did release the lizard, but she wouldn't talk to anyone for days. When she did stop being unhappy, it sounds like it never happened. She shook her head, thinking back to that time. Elizabeth always been stubborn, but when she was younger, she forgot grudges quickly. Now it wasn't so easy. Cove had been quiet for most of the story, apart from the reveal of the lizard. He had a thoughtful look on his face. I can't even imagine what it'd be like to have a sibling. He gave serious thought to his statement before you told him. You're lucky to be an only child. It's terrible having a sibling, especially if you're the youngest. Elizabeth tells you what to do all the time and says I have to do it because she's older. Cove pursed his lips at the words, considering them quietly for a while.
Cool.
That's interesting. I think your family's cool. You didn't have much else to say, so while on the topic of your family, you considered your relationship with your moms too. They were absolutely the best. You couldn't even consider having another opinion. You couldn't have better parents. We'll say what you want about them, but at least your mom's never tried to pay someone to be your friend. The thought prompted you to look over at Cove. You probably still didn't know what that happened. You doubt that Mr. Holden mentioned it, and you never had. You wonder if you should tell him. It was a long time ago, but you're keeping a secret from Cove. You didn't tell him. You just didn't want to have that talk with Cove. Maybe you would in the future, but you knew you weren't right now. Time passed, but you didn't really notice. The two of you were busy, making plans for the rest of the summer and chatting about your respective days. Eventually you heard a muffled holler from a different part of the house. You and Cove raised your heads in unison.
Oh.
It's time for dinner. Cove watched the firmly shut door he'd locked behind most of the night, but he didn't make a move to get up from the bed. You couldn't see his face, so you didn't know the expression he was wearing. I'm glad you came. Cove peeked back at you from the side. It's been awkward. Oh, yeah. You wish you had something nice or comforting to say to that. Hopefully just being there for him was enough. Cove said nothing else and remained sat where he was. Now would be as good a time as any to ask him why his parents suddenly wanted you to come over. But you kept quiet. As curious as you were, something about Cove's disposition prompted you to bite your tongue, so you said nothing. There's another shout from outside, too muffled to actually know the words, but you could imagine what they were. Let's go. Cove finally got up, letting Ray with his shoulders sagged. You followed after him. Together, the two of you made your way back to the living room. As expected, Cove's parents were politely waiting for you at the kitchen table, beside the windows overlooking the back of the house. Food had been prepared and set. Mr. Holden beamed as you and Cove took your places. I hope everyone's hungry. I cooked up a feast.
Yeah!
I know I am. Yeah. Cove's mumbled response wasn't nearly as upbeat as theirs. His parents didn't notice, or they pretended not to. Mr. Holden instead looked at you, grinning.
Thanks.
Let's all take a moment to thank our special guest for being with us here tonight. I'm so glad you're able to make it, Jamie, and at such short notice too. He just felt awkward about the situation. He gave a half-heart in his response, similar to how Cove had. The feeling was apparently contagious in this atmosphere.
Alright.
Well, that's it. Everyone, please dig in. You can help yourselves to the food. Upon his encouragement, you looked over at the meal spread out in front of you. There was a large garden stand in the center, surrounded by a variety of Mexican dishes. There were a lot of sides and optional sauces to add. This kind of just surprised you. You had no idea what you expected for dinner, but it wasn't this. Utensils and plates scraped and clinked together as the group began filling their plates. Could you pass the salsa verde? Of course.
Thanks!
Thank you. Let me just say, you really outdid yourself tonight. I'm so jealous. Jealous of what? Your cookie's nothing to sneeze at, Kyra. Those parents made small talk, filling the silence with what seemed to be barely any effort. You weren't sure what to say, or did you want to interrupt them by blurting something out? Without warning, Cove's parents started pulling you into the small talk. Jamie, do you want anything from my area at the table? Say the word and I'll hand it right over. I'm good, Mr. Holden, but thank you.
Marvelous!
Did you try some of the guacamole, Jamie? It's been a while since I've had close, but I remember it being amazing.
Aw.
You're too kind. Everything was great, Dad, as always. Thanks, sport. How'd you think so? Phil smiled. It was genuine, even if it was strained at the corners. Brief silences interspersed the small talk. Once the food had been divided and things settled down, Cove's parents started talking again. Now then. You sat up in your seat when you noticed they were both looking at you.
How's it going?
How's everything been over at your house? Your mom's well? You keeping busy this summer? Or maybe you're just trying to take it easy during the break? You felt overwhelmed by the sudden rush of questions. You were blindsided by them, your mind blank. Yet again, this was Mr. Holden. Maybe you should have expected this. You answered how things were at your house. I'd rather not talk about it.
It's alright.
Of course, totally understandable. You told them how your moms were doing? Moms are fine. Just kinda busy with work and stuff. That's nice. The doing fine part, not the busy with work part, obviously. And that was that for your question answering. Please don't say info overboard. You can't keep up with everything you're throwing out. Mr. Holden winced at the gentle reprimand, as if just realizing how rapid-fire his questions had been. Oops, sorry about that, Jamie. Guess it was a lot to take in at once, huh?
Did you know, Cliff, Jamie's really into sports?
Mr. Holden's face lit up and he stopped beating so he could lean forward, his arms braced against the table.
Nice work.
Oh, that's right. Very cool. Oh, it's not a big thing.
Oh, don't downplay your interest like that.
I was right. If you enjoy it, there's definitely a big thing. Thanks. Those parents were definitely the encouraging type, but you could already tell that much about them. There was a lull in conversation as everyone focused their attention on their respective plates. You noted not for the first time that Ko's parents were the ones guiding the conversation. You wonder if you should break the silence this time. You left coming up with a conversation topic to them. Mrs. Holden was the one who spoke, glancing at his son before turning to you with an easy grin. Speaking of hobbies, Will's been playing some tennis this summer. He and Kyra keep hitting the court together. Who would have guessed? He had already known that since Ko was so open with you, but it was interesting to hear his parents' perspective on it. The rest of the dinner continued just like that, with light conversation as you ate your meals. Eventually all the dishes on the kitchen table were pretty much gone. Kyra set down her fork and rested her arms at her sides, letting loose a satisfied sigh. Her plate was completely empty.
Thanks!
That was delish. Thank you for your culinary creations, Cliff. Mr. Holden was like a flower soaking up the rays of the sun. He beamed, flattered by the praise. He ate a few things. Mr. Holden wasn't a bad cook, but the food just hadn't been to your taste. Ko successfully kept his presence to a minimum for the full meal. He was slumped over, even now, playing with his silverware. His parents practically only talked to you. Most attempts to entice him to join the conversation failed. It wasn't typical for him to say so little. He at least tried to participate. You didn't get much time to contemplate Ko's situation because your attention was taken by Mr. Holden pointedly clearing his voice. Not to sound like a broken record, but thanks for coming, Jamie. I'm glad we finally got the chance to have you over for a real dinner.
What?
Did I hear that right? This is the first time Jamie has ever had dinner here? Why in the world haven't you invited him over sooner? Ko was always the one going over to Jamie's house until now. I mean, I was supposed to reject the generous offers of the last family to host my kid. Kyra shook her head, but the amused smile she was sporting told you that she wasn't actually that mad.
This guy, honestly.
The three of you looked at Ko in unison, his small sound being more than enough to get the focus on him after silence. And now he stopped fiddling with his fork.
I mean...
Would it be alright for Jamie to stay over, like, for the night? He shot you a shy glance, then smiling a little. If you're cool with that. Mr. Holden's shoulders stiffened. He sat up straighter, eyes starting back and forth between you and Ko. His mouth opened, but not a peep came out. You'd never seen Ko's dad say no to him before, but this was different than the usual request. It wasn't so simple and Mr. Holden was lost. Then Ko's mom reached out and took a hold on the shirt collar. She pulled him closer. She glanced at you before leaning in and bringing a hand up in front of their faces. The two adults whispered seriously to each other. Ko's eyes opened wider, leaning forward as if that would help him overhear his parents' conversation. Mr. Holden kept gesturing with his hands, while Kyra made sure he didn't get too far away with all his movements. Every now and then, both of them would watch you and Ko out of the corner of their eyes. It didn't seem like they were fighting to you. They looked more like some kind of tiny sports team having a private huddle. After a bit, they broke the group up. They moved back to sit properly in their chairs. You took a look at Ko. You stared at them expectantly. You're eager to hear their verdict too. We, Kyra and I, think that should be fine, but... He lifted a finger dramatically, his brows raising as he met Ko's gaze and then your own. We'll have to talk with Jamie's parents to make sure they'd be comfortable with it. If they are, we can arrange for a sleepover to happen on a different night when everyone is more prepared. If Jamie's folks don't like the idea, there's nothing we can do. He finished a mini speech with a wide shrug, using his full arms. He also checked out Kyra from the corner of his eyes and gave her a crooked smile. She nodded approvingly and grinned back. You thought you saw her give him a thumbs up, but her hand was partially blocked by the table. They looked so pleased with themselves over the answer, but they just passed the actual decision on whether it was alright or not to someone else, namely your parents. If this was a sports game, they would have punted the ball away. Ko hung his head, deflated. He had been hoping you could stay over today, not some hypothetical time in the future. You gave him some words of encouragement. Cheer up, Cope. I'm still here right now, aren't I? And things will work out somehow. Though he still appeared upset, the corners of his lip lifted a little in appreciation of her comfort. With that, dinner finally came to an end. Mr. Holden stood up from the table and began collecting empty plates. Cope was asked to help out, which he did with little fuss. Kara tried to lend a hand as well, however, Mr. Holden didn't let her. He seemed she was barred from cleaning as well as cooking. You weren't allowed to chip in either, since you're there as a declared guest of honor. Although the meal was over, the night wasn't. It looked like you weren't going home just yet after all. You were asked to wait on the couch. While Kova and his dad were cleaning up the mess, Kara disappeared down the hall after she knew Wink. It was a bit strange sitting by yourself while everyone else had something to do. Luckily, you weren't alone for too long. After a couple of minutes, Ko's mom returned with a deck of cards in hand. She strolled into the room confidently while shuffling.
So, who's up for a few rounds?
Ko and his dad looked over their shoulders at the question. They were mutually intrigued by the cards in her hand. She beamed at their expressions and stepped further into the living room. Ignoring the couches, she sat cross-legged on the floor by the coffee table. She turned to you and gestured at the space beside her, smiling invitingly. You accepted and followed her lead. The living room carpet was soft, though the hardwood floor underneath could definitely still be felt. Kara did an overhand shuffle while she waited for the others to finish their task. The smile had yet to leave her lips.
Great!
This is going to be good.
You enjoyed her enthusiasm. Ko's song was funny, upbeat, and easygoing. You leaned closer to watch her expertly shuffle the cards. It didn't take much longer for Cove and his dad to wrap things enough to call it good. Ko's dad appeared first, followed closely behind by Cove. Mr. Holden rubbed his hands together in anticipation. Alright, I'm ready. As he took a seat across from you on the floor, you noticed that Cove hadn't joined him. He went straight down the hall instead, without even a word. He stared on confused as he disappeared through his bedroom door. Cove's parents didn't look concerned or stunned. Kara nonchalantly split the deck of cards into two and riffled the halves together while offering an explanation of sorts.
Cove doesn't keep his wallet with him at home. He puts it away.
What? Cove quickly returned to the living room, a black wallet in his hand. He took a place at the foot of the table with the rest of you. He blinked as Cove unslipped his wallet. Do you bet real money on card games? With your family? While you sat there, your hands lied on your lap, three shot looks at one another and sized each other up.
Yeah.
That's right. $5 per round per person. Winner takes all.
Go big or go home.
Oh, are you planning on kicking Jamie out to the curb? Or do you intend on donating to the guest of honor spot, Mr. High Roller?
Mr. Holden narrowed his eyes and leaned back against the side of the couch, completely at ease.
No worries.
If Jamie wants to play, I'll fund his way in. Don't you worry about that. He rested an arm across the top of a knee he propped up. Cove's dad was acting slick in a way he'd never seen before. He appreciated his offer. Thanks, Mr. Holden. His tone and stance instantly became more familiarly friendly when he started directing his words to you. No problem. You can count on me.
Oh, we've got your ticket. Interested in throwing in?
You glanced around. It seems like serious business. In response to your consternation, Kara softened her competitive smile.
Don't worry too much. Why don't we just do some rounds of Go Fish tonight? No biggie.
Do you mind?
What do you think? You watched. You bit your lip and shook your head. You were too intimidated by their competitiveness. Mr. Holden shut you an understanding look, while Cove nodded sympathetically.
That's not a problem, Jamie. Whatever you're comfortable with. I'll play for however long you want us to keep going, until people start running out of cash, but still refusing to quit while they're behind.
Speaking for yourself, I see. With a laugh, Kara nudged you using an elbow, then motioned toward the other two with her chin.
Don't be fooled by their soft faces. These boys are sharks.
In reaction to her words, Mr. Holden smirked, and Cove's eyebrows became more angled. Kara's phrasing made you think back to when you were young, specifically of Mr. Holden's favorite shark pants that he used to wear all the time. Perhaps they had been fit for him in ways he didn't know of. You could feel tension in the air. Cove and his parents glued their eyes to one another. Then all placed $5 bills in an empty space in front of them. Once this was done, Kara began dealing out cards to everybody. It was time to begin. The first round came and went quickly, with the group getting into a group of things. Kara wasn't lying. The boys were sharks. They had a knack for figuring out who had which card. So Kara managed to win the first round despite the ruthlessness, so it was very close. You may have won the battle, but watch out. Cove and I could just as easily win the war.
Better put your money where your mouth is.
As the night went on, so did the games. Mr. Holden would jokingly shake his fist whenever someone other than him got a pair. Kara acted as a news anchor, reporting on every move everyone made by speaking into her curled fist. Cove was still a few words, but now it was because he was focused on the game instead of being overcome with awkwardness. Most of the time, you even spotted a smile on his lips. Despite all the trash talking, everyone ended up with rounds they won and ones they lost. It became clear that money wit in the moment didn't really matter. They ended up giving it back to one another in other ways, and not just do more rounds of cards. He sat back, looking over the scene. A tiny smile grew on your face. It was pretty cool, he thought. You're glad you got this chance to come over to spend time with the three of them. And kept your money to yourself. Our next one will be Wave. The family shopping trip had lasted most of the morning. You still had to unload everything from the trunk before you could go enjoy the afternoon. You cradled another bag in your arms as you headed toward your house. It was one of the heavier bags from the grocery store, loaded with fresh apples, ripe tomatoes, a bunch of carrots, and even half a watermelon. Mom came out the front door and paused just ahead of you.
It's no trouble.
You need any help with that, Jamie? I can bring it the rest of the way if you want me to.
Yes, please. It's just too heavy for your tiny body. Mom stepped forward to take the bag from your arms, and you headed back to the car to grab a new one. This time you got a smaller bag with a loaf of fresh bread and a couple of packets of dried pasta spirals. You passed Mom again on your way back to the house, and she gave you an encouraging grin and rustled her fingers through your brown hair. You set the next bag on the counter. Your older sister began to root around inside for the contents of the sigh.
Ah.
How much is left? Still a few more bags. With a huff and a puff, Elizabeth continued putting away the groceries, and you retreated out of the kitchen before you could become the target of her bad mood.
Be careful.
Careful, Jamie! You hadn't been looking where you were going and bumped right into her mom, almost stepping on her toes to boot. Sorry.
I can give you a pass this time, but be sure to watch where you're going. If you run into the wrong person, you might get your license revoked.
She grinned at the bad joke as you continued through the door. Outside, Ma started organizing what remained and putting back any loose objects that had fallen out during the trip. When you stepped up to the trunk beside her, she took in a big breath of air, her dress gently swaying around in the breeze.
That's a shame.
Shame we have to spend the morning cooped up in that shopping center. It's a beautiful day, don't you think?
You tilted your head to the sky, gazing at the clear blue expanse. It's too hot. You wrinkled your nose, feeling a few beads of sweat gathering on your forehead from lifting stuff around in the sun. If there were a cloud or two around to lessen the heat, you would be enjoying the weather a lot more. With a small sigh, you turned back to help Mom with the last of the bag.
Oh, hi, Cove!
You noticed Mom wave over at Cove, who had just exited his front door, his surfer propped up under one arm.
Let's see. Surfboard and wetsuit. Where might you be off to on this beautiful day?
Cove instantly startled, not having realized your family was also out here. Even though your mom was the one who called out, you were the one he looked at. He tried to settle down again. He jogged across the pavement to properly say hello to you and your parents. It was decidedly awkward since Cove had trouble figuring out how close to stand to you. The addition of his unwieldy surfboard made the whole thing seem even clumsier.
Careful with that thing, you put someone's eye out.
Mom chuckled and got a whispered reproach from Mom Flirt.
Pam!
Please, go easy on him.
Cove wins. Sorry, Mrs. Last.
Don't mind her, honey. It's a beautiful day for surfing. I haven't been out on the waves in a long time. I'm jealous.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get a few good waves before it gets dark. Hi, Cove. He relaxed a lot when Ma spoke to him, but the rigidity came back as soon as he said something.
Hey.
Hi, Jamie. Cove managed to grin, and it almost felt like he had butterflies in your stomach. You want to come hang out with Claire later? You noticed the flush of red in his cheeks, but that might have just been from the heat. I can't this time. Maybe another day? Cove looked disappointed, but he nodded and gave you a smile. He's really understanding when you have other things you want to do.
Alright.
Sure. I should get down to the beach before the wind turns. With last wave goodbye, Cove turned and headed down the sidewalk towards the beach. There's still a few more bags left to carry in. You picked up as many as you could manage. Which wasn't very much, truthfully. You had to make extra trips to get it all done, but there was no other option for it. Inside, you were greeted by an annoyed scoff. Is that everything now?
No.
Not quite, Elizabeth. Won't be much longer. You were happy to help however you could. It had to be done. There was no need to complain about it. Because the sooner you could get everything done, the sooner you'd be able to spend the afternoon doing whatever you wanted. I'm going back out. It wasn't long before each of the bags had been carried in and their contents were stored away. Elizabeth was already walking away.
Ugh.
Finally! Thank you for the help, you two. I couldn't have done it without you.
Good job.
You're just shunned carrying in all those bags, Jamie. Elizabeth rolled her eyes. That wasn't lunch. The day we bought today, we can make pretty much anything we want. I think the more important question is who's gonna stay and help prepare it.
You alright with that?
I agree. Any takers? I'm not hungry. Besides, I have things to do. I'll make something for myself later. Elizabeth waved a dismissive fan through the air before officially heading off to her bedroom. Mom pouted a little and let out a sigh before turning her smile on you. Sorry, I can't help. Mom let out another sigh. Go on. We'll call you when the food is ready. Got to be done with chores for the time being. You headed off to your bedroom while deciding what to do for the rest of the afternoon. With lunch out of the way, it was time for you to decide how to spend your afternoon. You began to run for inspiration. The empty phone caught your eye. You called Derek. You showed over to pick up the receiver and started to dial a number for the Suarez house. You didn't know if Derek would be in, but it wouldn't hurt to try. Hello, Suarez residence. Hi, this is Jamie. Can I talk to Derek? You can. He's home today. You heard a shuffling sound, like the phone was moving slightly. There was a mobile shot from Derek's mom. She didn't blast your ears, so she must have turned away from the phone. Here he is, Jamie. Have a nice chat. You held the phone away from your ear as there were bumpy static from Derek's phone getting handed over. You heard an excited breath.
What's up?
Jamie, hey, what's up? I was just free and thought of you. Really? I'm glad you thought of me. How's your day gone? It's been nice. We got a bunch of groceries. Ain't it tasty? You could hear the genuine interest in his voice over his topic. I think so. Ooh, I can hang out at your house next time in the neighborhood. Just for my food. He snickered and it was easy for you to picture the grin he must be making on the other end.
Nope.
You'd be a number one reason. It'll be fun to eat snacks together. So what's up with you? Kinda the same. Just short day at my place. I had to clean the bathroom, it was really gross, you know. Derek didn't sound entirely upset over it. If anything, he seemed to be boasting about how he could handle such a job. But the house does look a lot better now. Brother's room isn't a disaster anymore. You been cleaning the entire day? Well, no, I finished up my part a while ago and I've been playing the Wii with my baby brothers. You left it and the phone produced some more static. You're getting too good. Like pretty soon? He lowered his voice to a low, proud whisper. I'm not gonna have to let them win anymore. You're really gonna beat me. Can't wait, can you? You know it! It'll be fun to seriously let loose on him. He bragged a little more on his brother's gaming prowess, slipping in a few of his cool moves as well. You chatted until the conversation started dying down and the day grew later. But you kept talking to Derek. You started up another topic and Derek kept it going with energetic interjections. You went from subject to subject, the words flowing from Derek like a river into the sea. It wasn't until the sun started to go down that you realized how long you've really been going. It was time to stop. It's unbelievable how long you tied up the phone lines. You told Derek goodbye and he thanked you for hanging out with him. You cut the connection and placed the phone back where it belonged. You went out to watch the sunset. You called over to Mom and Ma about what you were doing and left. It only took you minutes to walk to the beach. By the time you reached the shore, the sun was far enough down to kiss the ocean on the horizon. You weren't the only one there. Cove was still at the beach, dripping salt water like he just crawled out of the ocean. There was a surfboard at his side. You were nervous to see him unexpectedly. As he walked through the sand, the shoes he had slipped on cracked against the ground. Cove turned his head towards you, no doubt hearing that sound. I wasn't expecting to see you. Hey, how's it going? Not bad. Cool. Slowly, you started into an actual conversation. He told you about surfing and you mentioned what you'd done during the day. You chatted a little more until the conversation truly died out and all you heard was the rhythmic sound of waves. Then Cove sighed. The day can't be over. Not yet. He scowled into the distance as if the sun exiting the sky was a personal offense. Don't you think it should be longer? Yeah. Cove stood up straight in defiance of the approaching darkness. I'm not gonna go home yet. I wanna go somewhere. I don't know. Cove was still dripping in salt water, so you weren't sure what the alternative was. Wetsuits were fine for the beach and not much else. It wasn't a good idea for him to lug his surfboard around town either. Yeah, I want to do something too. Cove nodded with a smile. He looked down at the shore with wide, shining eyes. There's at least one place that's always okay to hang out in no matter what time it is. Park. He nodded. The park was virtually always empty. Even Elizabeth only went over there nowadays if she was looking for you. Now times have changed. He used to be so protective of the place. In fact, the only person there was a chance of running into that Jeremy kid again. He brought up the idea up to Cove and he cringed, but I'm still going. The sun is still there, a little. I'm staying out as long as it is. You tagged along. Okay, let's go. Cove took a minute to put his stuff in order. He made sure to get it all, though it didn't take much care to shake the sand off. As a final touch, Cove plucked his glasses off the beach and put them back on his face. He looked more like himself now. He led the way down the beach to the park. It wasn't far, so it didn't take you long at all. The sun still hadn't completely disappeared just yet when you made your arrival. Cove stuck his surfboard upright in the sand and tossed his towel over top. By now the two of you were mostly dry. The summer breeze on your skin kept you pleasantly warm. Cove idly went over to the monkey bars. He grabbed them, feet flat on the ground, and pretended to go across. He'd definitely grown in the past few years. You were still short enough to use the monkey bars yourself, sometimes being tiny at its perks. When he got to a bar in the middle, Cove pulled himself up and through, then sat on top of the bars. His legs dangled off the side of the bar he perched on. You joined him on the monkey bars. You looked above yourself to expect the monkey bars. You might have been short, but that just gave you more experience in climbing things. You leaped and grabbed at one of the bars, using the momentum to swing yourself up. It took a little more scrambling, but you made it to the top. Cove seemed impressed. You settled on the monkey bar like it was a throne. You didn't get to be above everything often. And guess what? He smiled broadly and raised an eyebrow. He's not here. Right, it was Shu. It wasn't a single sign of Jeremy. Looks like it was just gonna be the two of you tonight. Cove hung his head and groaned dramatically, your eyes widened when he whipped his head back up.
No way!
I can't believe how dumb my parents are for forcing me to come to this stupid place. You're taken aback and blinked for a second before you realized he was quoting Jeremy. You don't have to tease him. Cove shrugged, feeling unrepentant. He couldn't blame him too much, considering how mean Jeremy was to him. You looked around. Gold Park, the streets you knew like the back of your hand, and the beach. These are your stomping grounds. You wonder how Cove actually felt. How much of his joke was just a joke, and how much was sincere dislike of this place. Moving had never been his choice. Do you actually like this neighborhood? You really have to ask that, Jamie. Cove kicked his legs carelessly as they dangled. He smiled softly. I like it here. I really do. It's a nice place. He didn't hesitate. There was no uncertainty. That was his genuine opinion. You're the best thing in the neighborhood, Cove. Cove flushed and started kicking his legs wildly like he was running in place. It didn't take long for the day to finally draw to a close. The sun was gone and it was dark. You chatted a while longer, but it was definitely winding down. He chose not to say anything. He sat in the dark in silence. Cove shifted position so that his back was on the monkey bars and he could look up at the stars. You wonder how comfortable that could be. Look at the moon. It's so clear tonight. He glanced up and saw a great gibbous moon swelling over the sky. A few clouds covered the sparkling stars above. Too bad we can't stay forever. Cove sighed. It was time to go home. He hopped down from the monkey bars with a thump when his feet hit the ground. You clambered down the monkey bars yourself. You lowered yourself more slowly than Cove and barely made a sound when your feet hit the ground. Cove grabbed the surfboard and threw his towel around his neck. With his water bottle in hand, he was ready. You both began your trek up the road. It was a quiet night and you didn't run into anyone else. And what felt like no time at all, you had reached your retreat. As you walked, Cove smiled to himself. It was a soft expression and you couldn't help but wonder what put it there. Both? I just remember when you were younger. It used to be such a big deal to come home after dark. You can indeed recall. If you got sandy, your parents would have something to say. If you got wet, your parents would have more to say. And if you came home after dark, well, your mom and his dad better have said it was okay beforehand. You didn't need permission for everything. That small comment he made to expose just how much freedom you really had this summer. Cove looked up into the sky, a smile still on his face as the two of you walked side by side reminiscing. When you came to your houses, you turned to each other. Thanks for today, Jamie. Yep. Cove waved and you both turned around to your respective houses. It was a pleasant end to your outing, you thought. And for the final step, moment for this step, family. The sun warmed your skin from its place in the sky, and you closed your eyes, enjoying the mix of the heat with a pleasant breeze that drifted past you. You and Lee had spread out a blanket on top of the hills behind your house, and had been relaxing there for a while now. Lee had come over earlier in the day, and while a range of activities had been discussed from staying home to heading down to the beach, a picnic on the hill had been the choice you both settled on. A small spread was laid out in front of you. It's a bottle of water, soft drinks, as well as chips and sliced fruit. You sat up and reached for a snack, listening to Lee talk away about the musical she had gotten to see a few days ago.
It was unbelievable. You're singing, dancing, crazy stunts, and it was all done live in front of my face. Hey, one day we could go together. Gotta see more shows like that.
You smiled at Lee's enthusiasm, knowing how much she enjoyed singing and performing. And she was good at it too. You got the chance to hear her sing a couple of tunes, and you knew she put a lot of effort into it. You didn't like to sing, but you had been told you were good at it. Whether that was true or not, there are other things you preferred doing more.
I wonder if maybe we could put on our own show. Think how fun it'd be. We could perform for our parents and ask our friends and some other people to come and watch it too. It'd totally work.
That's not a good idea. It'd be no fun for you, and you couldn't imagine anyone wanting to watch a show that a couple of teens had randomly come up with.
Are you sure?
Are you really super sure? You have so many skills you could show off to the masses.
I really don't want to. Sorry. Your cousin seemed a little disappointed, but she nodded and respected your wishes all the same. The TV lay back on the blanket and blazed in the sun, throwing ideas back and forth on what you could fill your time with. The beach was nearby, so you could go swimming or collect shells, or find something to do back home after all. In the end, nothing was tempting enough to move you from your current position, so you continued chatting briefly and nibbling on your snacks while the sun traveled in the sky overhead.
Alright.
So, how are your neighbors doing? You haven't spoken about them lately.
You knew Lee wasn't talking about the neighbors generally, or down the street. She wanted to hear about the Holdens across the road. It was no secret that she liked to keep up to date on what was happening with them, or more specifically, Cove. There weren't many other people your age around to talk about. They're great.
That's exactly what I thought you'd say.
Lee gave you a knowing look and your face flushed with heat. He'd love to chat about others' relationships and would always ask you for details on people you both knew.
Hey, did you want to see if Cove would join the picnic?
I like it being just us sometimes. Lee lit up, her smile spraying across her face.
Yeah, we're the best.
The sun slowly began to set, the sky turning a rosy pink and then warm orange.
See what Derek isn't in the neighborhood today. I like him.
Yeah, he's a good person.
I knew you'd think so. But speaking of boys we like, what's the relationship status between you and Cove? Is it good?
I think things are alright.
Alright.
Alright is better than bad. But like really, are you gonna be telling him you have a crush on him anytime soon or what?
I'll tell him soon.
I hope so. You know he's totally into you too. I guarantee it.
He didn't say anything, wondering about the possibilities ahead. The two of you talked a little more about Cove, amongst other topics, and you found that it was nice having someone to speak with about these sorts of things. Finally, you both decided to pack everything up and head back home for the evening. Upon walking through the front door, you were met by your moms and Elizabeth hovering around each other in the living room. Tension hung thick in the air as all three of them turned to you and Lee, frowning slightly. You had interrupted something. Exactly what, you weren't sure. What's going on? Your moms looked at each other, wondering which one of them was going to speak first. Eventually, Mom cleared her throat and spoke.
Oh.
You were just having a talk with your sister. The room fell quiet again, no one quite knowing what to say. You felt incredibly awkward, but the silence didn't last long.
You don't have to stop just because those two are here. There's no reason to try keeping it a secret.
Elizabeth was mad, with her arms folded defensively over her chest, but your mom's nodded in agreement with her.
Well...
Elizabeth was asking about her parents. Her biological ones.
The world spun around you at the news. You couldn't understand. Why was this happening now? When you glanced at Lee, she self-pulled her feet uncomfortably, as though she didn't know if she should be there or not anymore. You didn't know either. Your moms had always been open and honest about the fact that neither of them had given birth to you or your sister, but the details hadn't been fully explained before. It made sense that Elizabeth didn't know a lot about her biological parents and wanted to know more. You just had never thought you'd accidentally stumble into it. Elizabeth looked at your parents expectantly. She wasn't going to let an unintentional interruption derail things.
We don't want to keep that information from either of you. It's your right to know your past, but we did want to wait until you asked us to hear yourselves. What's happening now, so...
Your mom shared a nervous glance, and Moss took in a quick breath before speaking again.
I adopted you from the Philippines when you were just a baby.
Elizabeth dropped her arms, her eyebrows shooting upwards in surprise.
Wait, I was born here?
No.
You weren't. You could clearly see that your sister was appalled by this information. You struggled even more with what to do or how to react.
Am I gonna have to pass some test to even be a citizen?
No.
You're adopted into the country. We took care of things. You're already a citizen. You have nothing to worry about. I followed all the laws when it came to bringing a child into the US. Nothing can be held against you.
Elizabeth sighed, implicated with the information, but still far from happy.
Who are my parents? As people. Why did they put me up for adoption in the first place?
Moss softly put her hands over Elizabeth's shoulder, trying to provide some support before she gave her the answer.
I'm so sorry.
Your parents were reported to have died. They didn't go into details on the specifics of how, but you were an orphan. I wish I had better news for you, Elizabeth.
Elizabeth was torn between emotions, her eyes filled with tears as she threw her hands in the air, something enraged.
Great, so I can never meet them, even if I wanted to. Not that I could have anyway, since they lived in another part of the world when they still were alive.
Elizabeth turned her back on you and your mom stormed off, sprinting up the stairs and to her room before anyone else could stop her.
I have to go and talk to her.
Mom immediately started to follow her, but Mom gently held her by the arm and shook her head.
We should give her a little space to process it all.
Your mom's head hung low, but she stopped walking. With Elizabeth now gone, the two of them seemed to remember you and you were still standing awkwardly off to the side.
I'm sorry you had to see all that. It's not how I expected it would have happened when the time came. But since it's the topic of the day, Jamie, is there anything you'd like to ask? You deserve to know, after all.
Lee patted your back and gave you a supportive look. No, I don't want to hear. Not right now.
It's perfectly fine.
I understand.
You can always ask later if you ever change your mind.
You smiled at them gratefully. It was nice to know they wanted to be open with you and about the topic, even if it wasn't a talk you wanted to have now. No one seemed to have any words after that. You needed to stay here with your moms. You took a step closer to your moms, glancing at them nervously. You wanted to show them somehow that all of this wasn't their fault. The last thing you wanted was for them to feel sad about it. Are you okay? Your moms both smiled at you softly, a little thrown off by the question.
Well,
We're only as good as you right now. You're a sweet boy, Jamie, being concerned for your moms like that.
This is my family, here in this house. I'm not upset about people I've never met. Mom came over and wrapped her arms around you, giving you a tight hug. It didn't take long for Mom to join in, putting her arms around them both of you.
You really couldn't have asked for a better kiddo. We love you, Jamie. More than we could ever say.
You're so glad your moms were alright. Love you too. You let them hug you for as long as they needed. It was a nice moment shared between you. They both pulled back eventually and grinned at you. You knew then that you all had each other, and you always would. A knock on the door had all of you snapping your heads toward it for a moment before you exchanged confused looks. Mom pulled herself together with a deep breath and headed over to answer it, while you hung back with Mom in the living room. You hear bits and pieces of conversation at the door, and Mom addressing the guest happily. You strained your ears to hear more.
hello.
Hello, Cove, sweetie. I see you come for a visit.
Oh, yeah, is Jamie here? Mom glanced back over her shoulder at you to gauge your reaction and see if you're up for a guest. When you nodded your head, she turned back to Cove with a smile.
He's right here. Come on in.
Thanks, Mrs. Celeste. Cove stepped into the house, giving you a wave. Upon seeing everyone standing around, his eyebrows dipped a little.
Are you okay?
Is everything okay? You seem kind of off. You laughed. It didn't take long before the others were giggling with you, though Cove looked more confused than ever. With a hand, you indicated for him to follow you into the living room. You sat together with Cove on the couch while your moms and Lee headed off to get the two of you some privacy, and you explained to him what had just happened. It took a little while to relay all the information, but Cove listened intently and nodded the whole time. Hey. A voice made you all look up, and you saw your sister standing at the bottom of the stairs. She walked closer. You didn't quite know what to do or what she was planning on saying.
So?
Would you mind going? I want to talk to just Jamie. You can come back. It's not gonna be forever or anything. Cove seemed equal parts concerned and skeptical. Leaving now wasn't a concept that thrilled him. You can't ask that. Jamie, please, this is private. Elizabeth gave you a hard stare and eventually you relented. You waited until the two of you were alone before fixing her with a cautious stare. Elizabeth folded her arms, looking you over. Did Moms tell you about your parents too? I don't want to talk about it. Elizabeth nodded in understanding, her face sullen. Why'd you want to talk to me? Elizabeth raised an eyebrow at the question, as though the answer should be obvious. I was worried about you. I was the one who brought it up, but I made you deal with whatever was left when I was gone. She sighed, glancing upward for a moment before settling on you once more. I wanted to ask you what happened without everyone breathing down our necks. You were quietly surprised by her admission. She stuck her nose up a little at that, but her smile was soft. I'm okay, Elizabeth. It didn't upset me.
Hey.
How are you allowed to be that mature?
The lightning spirits in there were quickly gone, as she slipped back into a scowl. You have to be born in the US to become president. What? You never heard of that dream of hers before? She noticed your bafflement continued. I get that I was never gonna be president, but it just feels weird, having stuff taken away, not even getting a chance at it. I don't like having to know that when I was born I was gonna have a completely different life. So different I can't even think about what it looked like in my head.
who has spoken another language, lived away from everything I've ever seen here. That someone else is my sibling. And then my parents died, and I was adopted, and the life I got became a totally new thing forever. I can't go back to what it was even if I wanted to. The heaviness settled between you and the person who became your sister.
I don't really understand. I can't see that other stuff as being my life. The one I have is what my life is, and everything else is only what didn't happen. Elizabeth watched you seriously. She's still trying to make sense of this to you and yourself. I don't know why today was today. Nothing came up to make me ask the question. It was just something I've had in my head for a while. It was just me and Mom's in the living room. I just kind of said it, finally, and there you go. She shifted from one foot to another, relaxing her stance just a bit. Also spoke more gently. Thinking about them and what happened, it doesn't change how I feel about our family, Jamie. She smirked, fixing you with sharp eyes. I had already figured a long time ago that Moms weren't our biological parents. That wasn't news. He kept listening to Elizabeth. Nothing about the family I was first born in would have made me decide that this wasn't my family anymore. If I hoped you'd be free of my big sisterly status, don't think you're so lucky. She bumped her shoulder against yours playfully, her lips tilted at the corners.
You'll always be my little brother.
He smiled softly at her. I think I'm really lucky. Chuckling, she seemed pleased with how the conversation had gone in the end. You should let him come back now. You're probably wondering what's going on. It's been a long day for everybody. He gave her a nod. You can all come back now. Elizabeth called up the stairs, and you soon heard footsteps as your moms returned. You and Cove came back down too, poking their heads out from behind your moms. How'd the talk go? Mom gave the two of you a small smile, though you could tell she was still worried. I hope there's no disownment happening down here. Hey, I hope you're alright. He came up towards you, a soft smile plastered in her face. Are you okay, Elizabeth? Elizabeth rolled her eyes and huffed a breath, and you knew she wasn't used to showing her vulnerable side.
Fine.
I'm doing fine. Lee nodded, though you could tell she didn't quite believe her. Well now, since we're all here, how about we do something together as a family? That sounds like an excellent idea. We should have some fun before the night's over.
Totally!
I like the sound of that. Okay. Cove looked a little bashful, like the over being included as part of the family, but he tried not to pay much attention to it. Why not? He hit the smile that threatened to tilt your lips, knowing that Elizabeth must have been in a good mood if she hadn't even teased Cove for being part of it. And no matter what she could have said about it, you wanted him to be here. He was someone who was really important to you. Who's got a suggestion? This should be something we can do here in the house with everyone in the same room. We could just put on a movie. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
Good to me.
Me too!
Yeah. You weren't so thrilled with the idea, but went along with it anyway.
Alright.
Let's cook some popcorn, just so you can make a movie. Your mom headed off to the kitchen, and Mom turned to face the rest of you. What do we have in mind? Everyone else can decide. I'll watch anything. Anything but drama. We don't need more of that today. There's some chuckles at her joke, and you thought about what you would prefer to watch. I prefer to watch a horror. Cool. Perfect. With the basics settled, Ma took the sorting through the DVD collection. You didn't notice that Elizabeth was sidling up to you until she was right next to you, arm to arm. And there's only so much room on the couch. I say you should go to Jamie and I. This is our day. Wait, I was there with you too. I'm small, you wouldn't even notice I'm here. Elizabeth raised a skeptical eyebrow, not so sure about that. Ma stood back up with a DVD in her hand and a smirk on her face.
Please?
I want to sit with the cool kids too. Maybe there's room for one more, right? It might be a tight fit, but we can make it work. You could tell that Ma was teasing, and Elizabeth rolled her eyes at where this was going. She expected an easy victory. I bet you want to sit there too, huh, Cove? Ma tapped Cove on his shoulder with the DVD case. He blushed and dropped his gaze to the floor. I don't need to sit on the couch. I can sit anywhere, it doesn't matter to me. Mom came back with a big bowl of fresh popcorn and inhaled the smell of the hot, salted snack.
What's the skinny? We all want to sit with Elizabeth and Jamie, but there's not enough room on the couch.
Mom took that answer in stride and pursed her lips thoughtfully.
What a pickle.
That's definitely a problem. I suppose there's only one solution. Elizabeth and Jamie will have to sit on the floor in front of the couch. That way there's spots behind them and on the floor at the sides.
Yes.
Oh yes, that's fair.
Rude.
What? No! The whole point was us getting the couch to ourselves.
Sorry.
That's the cost of popularity.
Elizabeth groaned and crossed her arms over her chest in annoyance.
Fine. Jamie, you're with me in front. Rest you can fend for yourselves.
There's a mad dash as Mom and Lee raced for the couch behind you and Elizabeth, and Mom put the DVD in the player before joining them. Cove took a seat at your side, on the other side of the floor, giving you a small smile. Everyone soon quieted down. The only sounds to be heard were of hands scooping up popcorn and munching it down as the movie began. In that moment, you couldn't have been more pleased to be part of the family you had. And since we're not spoiling the DLC, then the summer ended. There was no denying it. Today was the very last day of summer. Tomorrow you're heading to class. Anxiety gnawed at your stomach. Going back to school meant handing over the autonomy you had over the past weeks. You had very little control over what you did at school or who you shared a class with. It was with a heavy heart that you chose your outfit for your final day of freedom. That was going to be different. You had to come to think of the summer vacation as the norm. The school sucked at the majority of the year, whereas the summer vacation was just as respite in the middle. Respite. So rather than it being different, it was kind of a return to the normal. What did your normal life really mean? You considered how fondly your moms talked about their summer vacations as kids. You dimly recognized that one year the pattern of school and summer itself would be over for good. It was hard to imagine. You got distracted with one arm still out of a sleeve. You pulled it through and your mind back to the present. This season brought about plenty of changes of its own, like Kyra's visit. Though that too was coming to an end already. Your mind wasn't made up on how you felt about her. Several mannerisms grated on you, but you liked other things. It was hard to come to a conclusion. You finished dressing, which was good. Phil would be there any moment. You agreed to see his mom off together. Officially, the plan was that he would come over to bring you round to his house when she was ready to set off. But you both knew that you'd be hanging out for at least a little while beforehand. Kyra's visit had troubled Cope when it first happened. It had been a sudden change, thanks to Mr. Holden's infamous tendency to surprise people. But once he was able to adjust, he'd been in pretty good spirits with her around. It was relief for everyone. The next thought that crossed your mind was... it would only be polite to get the door for Cove. He went downstairs to wait. You strolled down the stairs. No one else might have been able to answer it, but he was your guest. It was only a few minutes later when the doorbell rang. As you'd chosen to stand beside it and to wait for Cove, there was no delaying holding it open. Cove was there, just as you expected. Seeing you, he flashed you a bright grin.
Hey.
Hi, Jamie. Hi. Smiling, you begged for him to come in and follow you upstairs. Back up in your room, you sat down in your bed and waited for Cove to settle in as you knew he would. With other guests, you might have offered them a seat, but you and Cove were long past those tender stages of friendship. Your room was familiar to him as his own. You watched as Cove sat down in your desk chair, his preferred spot. He rolled it closer to the bed to make it easier to chat, picking the angle so that he was facing you fully. Once happy with the position, he leaned in towards you, his hand held in his lap. His actions weren't the ones of someone who planned on moving from his spot anytime soon, even though you had an appointment to keep together that day. When's your mom leaving?
Don't worry about it.
We got some time. She still got a shower and stuff before she goes. She didn't want me to just keep hanging around while she was doing that. He lifted his head, his gaze dripping out through the window and chuckled. I can't believe she's already leaving. Just when I'm getting used to her being there every day. He leaned back in the chair, a wry smile tickling his cheeks. Time's going by so fast. He cocked his head thoughtfully before shrugging. He ran a hand through his hair before shaking his head, as if shaking off the topic like a dog whipping off water following a dip in the sea. The conversation lapsed into another comfortable lull. Cove swung his feet underneath the seat of the chair, eyes resting on you. Having him over here was so nice. No matter how you spent the time, you always felt better for being in his company. You couldn't help but adore him, both as a friend and in a way that plucked at your heart, a vague yearning for more. Maybe it was just because summer was almost over that your feelings were rushing in on you now, like high tide at the end of a long day. There was such a meaningful time for the two of you. Not only because it was when you first met, but because it was a season that you could spend almost entirely as you please, and you both chose to spend it together. You were too scared to let him know. Where you were now felt safe. It was good. You couldn't handle the possibility of messing it up. The two of you tried to find something to say now. Lucky it didn't end up being that hard. This is a really nice summer. Totally. Cove still nestled cozily in your chair, smiled at your response. How are your fish doing? Really good. Things in the tank are stable and everyone looks healthy. That was nice to hear. You learned from Cove how hard it was to maintain an aquarium. Jimmy Jr. has been busy. He's starting between the plants and out again when I walk by like a game of peekaboo. Or hide and seek. Yeah. Cove idly glanced out the window. He gave a resigned sigh. It's gonna be hard to stir. You know, with school and getting colder out. I wanna get rusty. I don't know how I'm gonna go on without surfing. I wish we could do it more outside of the summer. He gave a light smile coupled with a shrug as a response. Jamie! Cove! A sudden call from downstairs caught you both unaware. You'd nearly forgotten the world outside your room. From the guilty look on his face, Cove had done the same. Just had a call. Cove's mom is ready to go. If you're quick, she might keep the mandated lovely smelling to a minimum. You doubted that, but it was nice that Mom and Mrs. Priest had their strange sense of humor in common. Your eyes met Cove's. Wordlessly, you headed downstairs together. Each step on the way there was painfully slow, like he was trying to delay the inevitable. His whole body tensed leaving the house, and Cove froze altogether before you both could cross the street.
Oh.
The door's open. That must be taking her stuff out. He swallowed hard. He's really gonna leave. You smiled at him reassuringly. You weren't sure what to say or how else to react other than being there to support him. Cove's bottom lip quivered, and he turned away. Thanks. At that, some of the conflict pouring on his face eased a bit. Together you went across the street and inside his house, finding his parents in the living room surrounded by his mom's packed things. Hey kids.
Good timing. I just called a taxi.
Hi.
And hi, Jamie. So glad I got to see you today. It's fabulous getting to know you this summer. I finally got to put a face to the name I've heard so many times.
She winked, and Cove pouted a tongue cue over the teasing. Hi.
Hi.
Nodding, Kyra turned her attention back to her boys. She patted Cliff on the arm with a warm smile, and then she enveloped Cove in a crushing hug. Initially, Cove squirmed to break free from her grip, but his mom was unfazed and kept him locked in place. Heartbeats later, he gazed in and hugged her back tightly.
I'm so glad.
I'm so happy this trip was a success. Cove looked like he was bursting with pride. And then Cove stiffened. Kyra loosened her hold on him enough to stay his face concerned. He spoke her next words in a whisper that had been meant just for her son.
What do you think?
Do you want to unshelve it?
Raising an eyebrow, Cliff watched him carefully. His smile began to falter.
What's wrong?
Cove sighed as his gaze flickered over to you for a moment. And then just as quick, he was back on his parents.
It's okay.
It's alright.
Really?
You sure?
I don't want to do it now. I can tell Dad later. Nervously, you watched the exchange with the growing suspicion that Cove didn't want to have that conversation while you were there. You wonder if you should offer to leave, when Kyra gave Cove a pat on the head.
Alright.
You can always call me if you want me to be part of the conversation, okay?
I'll call. Thanks, Mom. Cliff still looked baffled at what Kyra and Cove were referring to, but you watched as his shoulders slowly relax. You figured that he decided to wait for Cove to be ready to talk to him. In the Cliff's silence, things seemed to be settled for now. After that, it wasn't long before the taxi arrived, pulling up in front of the house and in clear view of the open door. Kyra stood up, smiling sadly.
Well,
Well, that's my ride.
Yeah. The matching fight got Chuck out of Kyra as he all filed out of the house. Father and son went with Kyra's bags in hand. Once outside, you spotted your family waiting by the street, and to your surprise, Derek was also with them. He stood uncomfortably, and he waved as soon as you noticed him.
what's up?
Hey, Jamie. Hi, Cove.
When did you get here?
My dad dropped me off just a little bit ago. Thought I could visit one more time before school started.
Sorry.
You picked a busy time, sorry. Derek couldn't even look at Cove. He nervously kept rolling a pebble with the bottom of his shoe.
Sorry.
I wasn't even thinking that your mom would be leaving today. I'm sorry, dude.
What? You're not interrupting anything. You're always welcome here.
You would have been sad if I didn't get to say goodbye before leaving.
Derek came to hang out often, so it's inevitable that the two had been at some point this season.
I think so too.
As a parent, Derek would have preferred to have gotten there at a more opportune moment. He never liked seeing him polite, but their reassuring words soothed his worries. The tension he was holding in his body lessened, and he looked like he was feeling much more like himself.
Hi, Derek. It's fun getting to know you.
Hi, ma'am.
Is there anything I can do to help?
Nah.
Don't worry yourself over that. We're just about set. In that short amount of time, Cliff had gathered and packed the bags into the trunk. Kyra took one last look over everyone inside.
Alright. I don't want to keep the driver waiting. It's time to head out.
The little crowd that had formed around started the chorus of farewells and well wishes for traveling. But Kyra still made no move to get into the taxi. She placed her attention on Cove.
I'll call when I get to the airport and when I make it to Nevada.
Also, you better call the moment you walk in the door at home. Otherwise, we'll be wondering all night if you got in trouble on the way there.
Can do.
I can do that.
And could you call tomorrow, too, so I can tell you how school went?
Of course. I want to hear all about it.
Kyra put a hand on Cove's head and affectionately ruffled his hair one last time. She then let go, only to move on to squeezing his cheeks in her hands instead. Mom!
Cove.
I love you so much, baby.
She was chuckling by the time she freed him, and rounded things off with a small tap on the tip of his nose. Cove rubbed his face with a grin. Finally, she walked to the car while waving and took her seat in the taxi. Cliff hooked her arm around Cove's shoulder and kept him close as it began to pull away. For a moment, Cove looked up at his dad and then wrapped an arm around his back.
Bye.
Bye, Mom.
Bye, travel safe. Kyra rolled down the window and stuck her head out of it. She waved again while blowing kisses at Cove and Cliff.
See you again.
Before she was out of sight, you decided to call out with your family and hers. As you added your voice to the others, you watched Kyra's smile grow larger. The cab turned down another road and completely disappeared from view. Cove let go of his dad and took a few steps out into the empty street, still looking in the direction his mom went. He smiled quietly, deep in thought. You got the impression Cove was feeling better than he was earlier. He was finally content with the way things were. You jumped a bit when your mom put a hand on your shoulder, pulling you away from your thoughts. You smiled when you looked at her.
This is a great vacation, huh?
Summer isn't over until the second I fall asleep.
No, that's for you then. Can't risk you accidentally ending summer a few hours too early for the rest of us.
Chuckling, you shook your head, unmused. Cove walked back over to the group, still genuinely happy. Derek grinned at him welcomingly. Everyone else there smiled at him, even Elizabeth.
Well,
Mom clapped her hands together, bringing everyone's attention back to the present. It's almost lunchtime. I think I put something special together. Her eyes sparkled with a plan, and Mom smiled.
I bet you could use some help with that.
That'd be absolutely wonderful. Derek glanced between the two, his eyebrows furrowed. Is there something I could do? Your mom's exchanged a fond expression. Ma shook her head.
how sweet.
It's very sweet, Derek, but it's alright.
It's not your job. Technically, your dad left you under Cliff's watch. You're meant to be taken care of by him, not doing chores for the neighbors.
Mom laughed a little on her own joke. You watched Derek look away, discouraged.
It's okay.
I don't mind.
He was a little bashful about it. He wondered if Mom's joke had just reminded him that he wasn't initially meant to be invited to lunch. He was getting a little awkward. Mom grinned sympathetically. Her comment was meant to lighten the mood, not to bring back down. I'll try again to get things moving forward.
Why don't you kids go have fun? You can all come back in about an hour. We'll make enough for everyone.
Mom nodded in agreement.
Sounds good.
What a stunning idea, Lonnie. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
That sounds like a plan then. I don't want to cramp your style. I got some stuff to work on, so I can be out of your hair this afternoon.
You should come by later too. No reason you should be the odd man out.
Mom seeing amused that Cliff rubbed his neck nervously. He grinned a wavering but pleased smile.
Thanks very much.
I appreciate the invite. He looked toward an assembled crowd with knowing glances. I can hope too. That this many people as you're feeding, that's gonna be a lot of food.
Didn't you hear what we told Derek? It wouldn't be fair to make you cook when we were the ones who were inviting you in.
Ma raised an eyebrow when Cliff waved it off.
Come on.
I insist. Derek will be missing time with his pals. This would be a break for me. I am quite the chef. Ma and Mom exchanged further glances before Mom shrugged.
True.
An airtight argument. If you're sure, we'll be happy to have you, Chef Cliff.
Cliff's grin widened as seemed only more hype than you expected him to be about helping with lunch. Cliff shook his head, a fond smile on his face.
Then all us grown-up people will be heading inside. I assume the rest of you kiddos are staying out?
Maybe not all of them. Ma tilted her head, a silent question for Elizabeth. Your sister thought for a moment.
Alright.
I'll stay with the kids.
That's fantastic.
That's great. Both your moms smiled at her, while Derek and Cove didn't seem to appreciate her phrasing. With the plan decided, all three parents waved and headed for your house. It's just you teenagers now. Elizabeth looked at you and the others, a curious expression on her face.
So?
What now? You silently wondered if Elizabeth only stayed out with you to avoid getting roped into work. And again, she could just genuinely want to hang out. You can tell with your sister. Cole spoke up after no one else did to answer Elizabeth's question. Wanna go down to the shopping street? It's been a while. And I don't think there's a lot of other things we could agree on.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
Sounds awesome to me. Like you guys, I haven't been there 1,001 times. It's new to me.
Okay. You strolled across the road as a group, down to the beach and then to the left. It took less than 15 minutes to arrive, one of the conveniences of Sunset Bird. The four of you looked around in the familiar shops to see if anything caught your attention this time. Derek was the most enthusiastic. He checked out every stall with his eyes wide with wonder. Elizabeth and Cove were in good spirits as well.
That's so cool.
He ran over to a street magician who was currently doing a card trick for a group of enchanted tourists. Derek clapped when the magician showed a middle-aged man his card. Derek turned back to the group with a curious gleam on his face.
What does it take to perform here anyway? You have to ask somebody, or do you just show up and start doing stuff? Who would you even ask? It's a public street. Hey, Miss Mayor, can I pull a rabbit out of my hat? Please, Flopsy's well behaved, I promise.
Derek chuckled, his eyes searching up and down the scene.
Maybe?
Maybe there's a boss of the shopping street? No one does any of this around my neighborhood. This regular store's behind walls. It's different if someone wants a real store, but here I'm pretty sure people are just putting on little shows whenever they want and do whatever. So neat. Will we be allowed to do something too?
Cove laughed and Derek began almost vibrating with excitement. Elizabeth rolled her eyes. What will we do?
Well, I don't know what. Not yet. I mean, I just found out it's a possibility, you know? But it's gotta be something. We know cool stuff. I'm sure if we think about it, we could plan a show that really get the crowd pumped.
You thought Derek needed to abandon that bad idea stat. I don't think you should do that. Sorry.
Why?
Why not?
You don't even know what you'd be doing.
This is still what we call a brainstorming phase. I know what I was in for when it really came time to shine.
With some amusement, the gang continued to peruse the stalls.
Elizabeth found some earrings with a dangling, badly misprinted globe that everyone laughed at.
Cove picked out a blob as Iceland, but Derek thought that it had to be Greenland.
You know, this is a world with what looks like 9 continents. I think you're both wrong.
He stayed out of it. Suddenly Cove froze. He stared at him and then tried to see what caught his attention. When he saw a familiar face down the way, it all made sense. Between the crowds, his bright hair stood out like a neon green bowl in the kitchen sink. It was Jeremy. Jeremy slowly drifted his eyes down the street and his eyes widened in mutual recognition. He definitely noticed you. Derek frowned at the Cove side. Neither of them were happy to see him again. You waved at Jeremy. He did not wave back. Elizabeth raised an eyebrow. Her gaze swept over Jeremy without a hint of a clue. Jeremy simply scoffed himself and waded deeper into the crowded people. Derek relaxed and exhaled loudly. I'm glad he's not gonna start anything. He peeked over Elizabeth with a tiny smirk. See, that was the mean kid.
What?
Huh? She still didn't get it. The first summer day hadn't made nearly as much of an impression on her as it did for Derek. But he smiled and moved it off. Just forget about him. I already have. He laughed and Code smiled lightly. He seemed in a much better mood now that Jeremy was gone. Her eyes wandered over to where Jeremy disappeared. He hadn't forgotten the day he met him either. He was only going to be in town for vacation with his parents he hated. That glimpse was probably the last time you would ever see him. You kept the thought to yourself. Elizabeth snapped her fingers in front of your face. Apparently you had spaced out. Cove and Derek were already at the next stall. Come on, unless you want to get left here. He nodded and caught up with the others. Cove raised an eyebrow. What are you thinking about? Nothing. He gave you a searching look, but let it drop when Derek yelled at you to go check something out. You couldn't help but wonder though. What would have happened if you had interacted with Jeremy more? You're glad you wouldn't find out. Jeremy was unlike anyone you had ever met before. You didn't know what to think about him. You and the group moved on from the stall from Jeremy. It didn't take long for everyone to return to joking. You all enjoyed what little time you had left as Elizabeth mentioned the hour was almost up. The little trip had flown by, and lunch must have been waiting for you now. Derek bounced in the balls to the seat.
Okay.
Come on guys, let's cook so we can eat. I'm starving. Homebound, here we go. Coach stretched one of his arms lazily. Let's go then. You looked at him brazenly. You nodded at him. Then you followed Elizabeth as she took it upon herself to lead the way home. She walked fast, much faster than Derek preferred. She kept gaining a lead, and then Derek would jog back up to the group. With Cole's long legs, he had no trouble keeping up. You walked side by side with Cove. You kept close to your neighbor. You both chatted about things you'd seen at the shopping street, with Derek chiming in every so often. You caught Cove smiling at you a couple times. He was happy you were spending time with him. It was a pleasant walk home, and in no time you had made it back. Derek got to the front door and held it open for everyone as you each moseyed inside. The three parents were still in the kitchen, looked up and waved. Welcome back, everyone! Yeah, just in time.
Hey.
I hope you're hungry! So, did everyone have a nice time out? He gestured for people to take a seat at the table. Plates and silverware had already been placed out. You took your normal seat. Elizabeth sat across from you, and Derek took the seat to your left. Cove sat on your right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we had a great time. It was fine. I had fun. It was okay, I guess. That's good in my book. Casually, Mr. Holden sat in the empty seat across from Cove. He smiled at you and all the other kids. Mom set down a platter full of water glasses on the table. He looked down at the gathering. It's a good thing you have 8 chairs. I can't remember the last time we had a group this big over for a meal. Can you pass the drinks down the other side? Make sure y'all get one. Sure. Those close to the cups obliged and started offering waters around. As everything got set up, Ma tried Elizabeth to take her elbows off the table.
Now.
And you shouldn't slouch. She pointed to Mr. Holden, who was leaning forward with both arms on the table. Oops. Mr. Holden seemed unsure about all the sudden attention and carefully rearranged his posture to something suitable for a fancy dinner. He smiled sheepishly at Ma. Elizabeth rolled her eyes, and Ma gave a level look at her. You shouldn't be impolite to a guest in the house either. Elizabeth groaned, long and long-suffering. Ma giggled and Mr. Holden chuckled.
Not bad.
Well, you could learn something new from Derek. He has the best manners here. Derek blushed, but it was true. His posture was upright and formal. He even held his fork gracefully. His human manners on top of his attempts to aid your parents made him the model of meal-attending behavior.
Aww.
It's nothing. It's true though. You've been a lovely guest. I've noticed that too. It's always nice when you stay over, Derek. Derek smiled and sat a little taller in his chair. And do you have anything good to say about our other guests? She looked deliberately at Cove with a teasing smirk. Or is it just nothing to say? Well, Cove is my number one, but he still does clean his hands by wiping them on his pants. Cove frowned at that and absentmindedly brushed his hand on his pant legs. Your mom laughed lightly.
There, there.
Elizabeth, you should know, after all these years, Cove is hardly a guest anymore. Cove smiled awkwardly. Thanks. He teased Cove for his bad habit. Don't think I'm gonna let the pants thing go. Cove looked over at the window, not wanting to face the truth. Everyone ate their meal together and continued to hang out for the afternoon. After the food, you and the others played a couple games and talked about plans for the upcoming year. The time passed by quickly, and soon it was time to part ways. Mr. Holden talked to your moms, and Cove drifted over to you, knowing that as soon as his dad finished up, he would be leaving. It'd be cool to stay, but we have some stuff to do before everything closes today.
Okay.
Yeah, bye. Could you move? I need the phone. Cove raised an eyebrow, and Elizabeth impatiently gestured behind him. Cove realized he was staying right in front of where the receiver was placed. He sidestepped out of the way and shook his head, clearly thinking Elizabeth was rushing too much. Your sister made a beeline for the phone and started dialing the number of what you'd figure was one of her friends. Knowing Elizabeth, she was going to be on there for a while. You, Cove, and Derek shuffled closer to the door. It seemed like Mr. Holden was wrapping up this conversation, so everyone started saying their various farewells.
Talk to you later.
See you there, Cove. We gotta do this again sometime. Yeah, see you. Cove turned to you and smiled slightly. Bye, Jamie. You hugged Cove goodbye. You stepped forward and spread your arms wide. Cove only had a moment to react before you encircled him in your arms. Cove hugged you back tightly and his chest rumbled as he laughed. His cheeks were slightly red, especially when you looked over and noticed that Derek had watched the whole thing. Derek smiled amusedly. Seriously, dude, we'll have to hang out later. I'm gonna miss you during school. You offered Cove a high five, and the boys clapped their hands together. Cove and his dad left soon after that. Your parents started cleaning up the house. Elizabeth was still chatting to her friends on the phone. It was just you and Derek left. He elected to stay outside in front of the house to wait for his dad to pick him up. He decided to keep your guys company, although he was originally Cove's visitor. A light summer breeze blew through your hair and Derek shifted his weight from foot to foot. Thanks for waiting with me. He kicked at the ground distractedly.
Well,
That's still gonna be a while, so do you want to go for a walk? Okay. The two of you walked down the street again, just wandering without a destination planned. It was a quiet stroll. Too quiet for Derek being the company. You turned to him when you had noticed that he wasn't saying a word. That was unusual. Derek always had something he could chat about. You weren't sure if you should ask about it. Somehow you ended up at the old park near the beach. You glanced over to Derek once more, still expecting him to say something any second now. However, nothing came from him. In fact, now you notice a frown creeping on his face. Derek smiled when he realized you were watching. At least, his mouth first turned up. It wasn't anything that really felt happy in the expression. He turned away and the smile fell off his face. His eyes stared intently at the ground and you raised an eyebrow. If you want to talk about something, I'm here. I'm a little sad. It's just with school starting back up again, it's gonna be hard to visit. I'm gonna have homework and clubs and practices and everything else.
this sucks.
It really sucks we go to different schools. His face screwed up and his fists were closed tightly together. This was really concerning him. What if we don't have time? You channeled some optimism to the conversation. We'll make time. You can talk over the phone and have plans for weekends. It'll be okay. Derek looked up at the sky. It was orange and purple with little wisps of clouds scattered around. A plane flew high with a jet stream trailing behind it. Then he turned to around again. Derek's face was tilted far enough down that it was harder to read its expression. Hey, Amy? I actually wanted to talk to you about something, if you don't mind. There was a pause and you waited for him to finish his thought.
Sorry.
I was just kind of wondering, do you like guys at all? Like, would you ever want to be with someone who was a boy? Sorry if that's weird to ask. You didn't answer him. A small silence fell between you. You got the message that you weren't comfortable talking about this.
Don't worry about it. Sorry for the random question. It's okay. Are you mad at me? You shook your head. It feels alright to just ask someone. You didn't push anything. You look relieved. Well, I hope we'll always be friends, no matter what. Even if we don't see each other for a long time, or if we get really busy, I still hope. He cut himself off and met your eyes. There's something serious into him. He's really worried that you'd fall out of friendship. We're always going to be friends. Derek smiled, mostly to himself. He seemed a little more like usual. Then for sure, we had to make the most of the next year. And the year after that, and the year after that. We rambled on for a while about things. We'll just make the most of every year. Right. He smiled and felt like your friendship was still strong. You didn't spend much longer at the park after that. Derek didn't want to miss his dad, so you both made your way back to your street. After Derek went back home, you decided to settle in for the night. Stretching your arms over your head, you noticed that the living room had an phone were free. You took it easy. You flopped under the couch and wiggled into your position just right. And you knew when it was perfect, because all the exhaustion from the day started fading away. So uncontentedly, you were pleased with the end of this day. Looking at the clock on the wall, you saw that there was only about 10 minutes until your mom would be insisting you had to go to bed so you could be rested enough for school. You stretched your legs out on the couch and sighed in defeat, watching the minute hand change 1 minute closer to bedtime. You rearranged yourself, feeling restless, and looked out the window. Startled initially, you spotted a figure out in the hills. It was Cove. The surprise faded. You realized it really wasn't that much of a shock at all. It was exactly something Cove would do. You ran off to go see him. Running, you reached the front door in record time. You didn't think you'd see Cove again that day, yet go to him. When you arrived, you noticed how many fireflies were out that night. They drifted along lazily, barely minding your presence as you waited through to reach the top of the hill. Cove turned towards you as you approached. You noticed right away that Cove looked happy to see you. Hey. Smiling shyly, you stopped in front of him. Your fingers nervously pulled at a loose string hanging off your shirt. Hey, what are you doing out here?
Nothing.
Not really. He shrugged, seeming unhappy with his own answer. You stared at him, waiting for him to continue. Well, I guess I was feeling kind of weird about stuff, so I'm getting some fresh air before bed. I know how you feel. It's hard to stay still. Tomorrow's gonna be the start of a new year. At the mention of school, a small noise escaped him. Cove let himself fall back onto his butt and then all the way down, so he was laying on his back. He looked up at the sky. He sat on his chest. He had made himself a pretty available seat with the way he was laid out. You flopped yourself square in the middle of his torso. Jamie! He jolted up in surprise, though couldn't get far with you on top of him. He fell right back into the grass. With a huff, he just gave up on being shocked. Fine. He sickened in a self-satisfied way. He had been lost in thought, or was possibly waiting for you to situate yourself, but he started speaking unprompted again.
I'm sorry.
For being kind of awkward when my mom was leaving. Surprised, you stared at him a moment. You weren't expecting that. I just wanted you to know that I talked to my dad about how I felt and things. It's okay now. You're genuinely glad to hear that, and it brought a small smile to your face. Your thoughts quickly wandered back to the first day you met Mr. Holden. Did his dad confess about that? When the way Cove talked, you guessed he hadn't. So there was more Cove and his dad to talk about, but it was a relief to know that they had made a start. Now is not a good time to bring up what you were thinking, though. You'll wait longer to say it. It was almost unbelievable how much of an impact he made in your life just by moving in next door. You couldn't even imagine what your days might have looked like in a world where you hadn't met him. Cove glanced back at you, waiting for a response, and you had no idea what to say. Then so, without a word from you, Cove gave an exaggerated shrug. What? It's you. Huh? You staggered before answering. You looked thoroughly amused with your reaction. That's like you do all the time, so I'm being you. He felt bashful about his joke.
Being self-conscious, you glanced at the ground and felt a blush burn across your face. When you dared look back, you saw that Cove was smiling apologetically. He wasn't trying to be mean with it. Honestly, there weren't many people you could think of who could tease you about something like that. Returning his smile, you realized there was no denying that you two have been around each other for a long time. Cove broke the quiet before he could fully settle.
See you tomorrow.
Hey, I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, see you then. With a final wave, Cove headed for home. But you stayed there a few minutes longer. Your mind kept going back to the simple statement, see you tomorrow. No matter how much was changing around you, there are some things in your life that always seem to remain true. The hills felt warm to you that night. Before you knew it, you were getting comfortable under the covers in your room. Your mind couldn't help still be buzzing with thoughts about the future. Felt unsure. A new chapter of your life was about to begin, and no one could say what it was going to be like. Slowly your eyes grew heavy as you drifted off to sleep, your mind spinning with wishful thoughts. No matter what happened next, you could only hope that you would make the most of it. You were ensnared in a dream when a noise from outside jostled you. Your eyes snapped open. The light clatter continued. Now that you were more alert, you could distinguish it as a tapping sound. Quiet, slow, but persistent. Each sheet was like being poked. You couldn't ignore it. You lifted your head from the pillow and looked for the source. Not much work was needed to puzzle it out, just from the window. With that, you knew exactly what it was. When the color of the light filtering into your room, it was too early for anyone to be awake, including the sun. It had barely hauled itself over the horizon. But that didn't stop some people, it seemed. You sat up in bed and opened the window wide. Cool air, not yet warmed by the day, tickled your face as it pushed into your room. And just as you expected, there was your neighbor crouching on your windowsill. He was fully dressed, though not for school. He was wearing a wetsuit and a shy smile. Hi, Jamie. He stared back, blinking. So, technically, you won't be back to school for a few more hours. His voice was a delicate, yet deliberate. Each word a careful explanation. Classes haven't actually started yet, so do you want to hit the beach with me one more time this summer? That's way too early, Cove. But you both knew that you weren't going back to sleep after this. Cove chuckled bashfully. You rushed to get changed into something suitable, while Cove climbed back down to ground level. Your limbs, still half asleep, struggled somewhat as you attempted to coordinate them to a swimsuit. But you got there in the end. Then you were tiptoeing out of your front door, clutching a towel. Cove was already there to greet you. Your eyes met. Cove's gaze started to your destination and back to you. You checked the door was closed, gave him a thumbs up, and the two of you leapt into action. Wordlessly, you began to run down the familiar path ahead, Cove beside you. The thrill of your illicit outing made you want to laugh. Not that you dared. If anyone in your family looked out and saw you, then your summer would be back to being over. One glance at Cove told you that he was exactly the same, holding back snickers for fear of being heard and caught. The towel streamed out from under your arm like a cape. You were running so fast downhill that simply keeping your balance and not tumbling down was a real threat. It just wasn't enough of one to make you slow your pace. For every step you took, the beach was a little closer, and the day a little brighter. What lay ahead for you would arrive, and you were happy to meet it. And that's the end of step 2. I think we reached a good stopping point for this stream, even if it is a little early. We can see how we've changed up for our next time skip, and pick up on step 3 next time. See you then.